Hello, my name is Jenny, and today I will be comparing and contrasting films, and this is my presentation on it. My first movie is City Lights. It's kind of in the silent film era, and it's when we were kind of transitioning into talkies per se, but Chaplin decided that he wanted to stick to more silent films. He decided that the little tramp character did not deserve to speak in a sense. This is the first film that he was able to take kind of full control of the score, and he was using it use every note to match the movements of the characters. Because there's no dialogue, the music acts as a script in a sense. Like, as you can tell, he used leitmotifs, and that was to kind of just tell you who's on screen before you even see them. And for the blind girl, we used a song called La Violetera, and it's to represent her grace in a sense. And he also used a technique called Mickey Mousing, which it was kind of to mimic whenever he would stumble and punch during the film. And it really goes to show that music isn't just background noise, it kind of narrates the story, especially during the silent film era. The next the next film I chose is Planet of the Apes. In this film, it was kind of post-war, and it was really to go kind of just the sounds and the score in the background was to kind of describe the setting in a sense. Like unlike in City Lights, we use orchestral scores to replace dialogue in a sense. But in Planet of the Apes, Jerry Goldsmith kind of threw away all the pretty melodies for modernist atonalities. He used experimental sounds like ram horns and metal bowls to make the audience feel like kind of in that place in the setting and the world of these kind of alien like monkeys. But yeah. Like the evolution's kind of like we moved from the harmonies of the 1930s to the dissonance of the 60s. While the sound changed from really comforting to more jarring, like all the action happening. The purpose stayed the same, in my opinion, though. Music is just a bridge to kind of make the screen feel real. The next film I chose was Titanic. In the 1990s, Titanic brought back the grand epic style. It kind of according to the textbook, this score is a mix of traditional symphonies and modern synthesizers. The big change was we moved away from experimental attack like the Planet of the Apes, where it was a lot of bashing sounds and all of this. But in Titanic, James Horner went back to the beauty. He used love themes, and it made it a deep emotional connection. And it was very similar to obviously the film City Lights. The leitmotif system from the 1930s in City Lights, and in the 1990s with Titanic, the music was using melodies to act as the heartbeat of the story in a sense. And that always kind of stayed the same, especially throughout more romance type of films. The next film I chose is The Little Mermaid in 1989. It's when we kind of reached the animation renaissance. A lot of films came out. In the 1980s, Disney actually was kind of on a roll, and an era where films kind of just started to sound and look like Broadway musicals. I would say with The Little Mermaid, it kind of Menken broke the rule. He stopped using Mickey Mousing, which is obviously really old technique, but still good. He didn't make the music like match the character's footsteps. Instead, he kind of used the music to change the vibe. He mixed a formal European style with a Caribbean calypso sound. While the 60s used unusual sounds to make the audience feel uneasy, the 80s used unusual music like the steel drums to make the audience want to dance. It took like technical complexity of the modern era to and made it pop for a global audience. My second film, or my last film, is WALL-E, and it was in the era of like the new millennium, kind of very much more modern. By 2008, WALL-E kind of it used like in a mix of DJs in different styles, I would say. We see a massive shift in how exotic sounds are used. In the 60s, with Planet of the Apes, the music was like meant to be bleak. But in WALL-E, even though the like earth they are in is bleak, the music still stayed light and fresh. Like Newman used jazz, flute, and even though 1960s Broadway songs, it gave like the cold robot like some emotion and warmth. But something that honestly stayed the same throughout is it's kind of a full circle back to City Lights. Because WALL-E doesn't speak, Thomas Newman had to use music as a voice of the character. Kind of like how Chaplin did literally years and years ago. So it was very similar in a sense, like using music and the score to kind of mimic the way people act and speak and all of this. To wrap things up, though, we've looked at literally films within almost 80 years of each other. And what I've learned is that film scoring isn't just background, it's a language that is involved through four major stages, I would say. We started in 1931 with City Lights, where music was the narrator in the sense. Same with Planet Apes, it was kind of just the music was describing the settings and how we would feel in a way. But in the late 80s and 90s, with the films like The Little Mermaid and Titanic, music became a hybrid. Like my textbook said, composers brought back beautiful melodies, but of the past, but added like a modern technique to it, like synthesizers and other stuff. We kind of just stopped mimicking footsteps instead, and it was more for like deeper emotions. Like the film or the music would describe how the characters are feeling, I would say. And finally, by 2008 with WALL-E, we kind of entered like the eclectic era. As the textbook said, it was light and fresh, like it was mixing jazz, pop, and even references to old movies. While sound did change over the years from violins to metal bowls and synthesizers, the purpose kind of never changed. Like, we use music to voice the story in any different ways, whether it's the dialogue, setting, or how we are like the emotions in it. And that is my presentation. Thank you so much for listening.